Long ago, life was clean, sex was bad and obscene, and the rich were so mean. Stately homes for the lords, croquet lawns, village greens. Victoria was my queen. Victoria, 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 Victoria. I was born, lucky me, in a land that I love. Though I'm poor, I'm free. When I grow, I shall fight. For this land I shall die. Let a sun never say. Victoria, 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 Victoria. From Canada to India.
Sound of the drums beating in my heart. was a pretty big deal. The iPad mini 3, however, which was announced just moments afterwards, was considerably less of a big deal. Basically, Apple just took the previous year's iPad mini 2, gave it a new gold finish and a Touch ID sensor, and called it a day. Yes, it does kind of suck that iPad mini fans got shortchanged, but Apple is making up for it now with the iPad mini 4, and it really is the iPad mini we should have gotten last year. So, what's new? Well, the iPad mini has never been a tank of a tablet, but Apple shaved off about 1/10 of a pound, making this year's iPad mini the thinnest and lightest we've ever seen. 1/10 of a pound might not sound like a whole lot, but believe me, it's a very tangible difference when you're holding these things in your hands. More importantly, the 7.9-inch screen is beautiful. Apple has finally laminated the display with the glass itself, meaning there's no more gap between the pixels on the screen and the glass covering it all. That means we're getting greater clarity, not to mention better viewing angles that we've gotten in the past. This is a big, big improvement. Now, while it might look like Apple took an iPad Air 2 and stuck it under a shrink ray, that's not exactly the case, and that's because of what's going on inside. So instead of carrying over the iPad Air 2's A8X chipset, Apple actually plugged the A8 out of the iPhone 6 and stuck it in this year's iPad mini 4. I've always thought of the iPhone 6 as a pretty snappy machine, and I've never really had complaints about its performance, so those sentiments carry over really nicely into the Mini 4 as well. Another difference at play here is that Apple dropped in 2 GB of RAM into this iPad rather than the one we saw in the iPhone 6, so it's not a straight translation, and it helps dramatically, especially when it comes to Apple's really cool new multitasking features. We've talked about this stuff more in depth in our iOS 9 review, but here's the long and short of it for the iPad mini 4. If you swipe over from the right side of the screen, you can open basically a drawer of applets. This is what Apple calls slide over, and any one of those applications can be run in its own section of the screen. You can't interact with the app you were in previously, just the one that you've just opened. If you want to be able to interact with 2 apps at the same time, you can take the line that divides those 2 applications and slide it over until both apps take up half of the screen. This is what's called split view, and you can interact with both at the exact same time. It's a really cool feature, although on the smaller screen of the iPad mini, it feels a little less useful than it might otherwise be. The rest of iOS 9, if you haven't already played with it, is really quite nice. There are a lot of thoughtful changes in addition to these iPad-centric tweaks that make it run and feel much more efficient and more thoughtful. So, for instance, there's a back button that allows you to jump from your current app back into the previous app without you having to open the app switcher and figure out what you were doing. Siri is also more proactive in suggesting people and apps for you to talk to and use respectively, and Spotlight Search now allows you to dig into third-party applications and the contents within, not just stuff you have stored in Apple's own first-party apps. Throw in a battery that lasts almost as long as the 13.5 hours we got out of last year's iPad mini 3 in our video rundown test, and we've got what's ostensibly Apple's best and most powerful tiny tablet to date. Now, Apple products aren't for everybody, and we could say the same about small tablets too, but if you're looking for a powerful portable slate with great looks and great apps,